Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Adam, the Chief Operations Officer of the HAMA Association, and today we are in week 3 of the first round of sessions for Learn Historical African Martial Arts, the online workshop. Today we're going to be doing El Matreg. So if you give me a moment here, I'm just going to share and make sure that everybody can see this, and then I'll wait a minute, see who's on, and then we'll get the class started. Let's see, so we got one person so far. We'll wait a few minutes, see if we can get a few more people. And the great part about today's weather is it is nice and hot, which I love. I'm not necessarily a cold weather person. And when we are representing North Africa's martial traditions, of course, we want to get that nice heat to feel what it's like to be in the desert. Well, not really. I mean, there's a whole lot of grass out here, not that much sand, but we'll work with it. So let's talk a little bit about El Matreg. What is this thing? Where does it come from? Who does it? Why do we do it? So, El Matreg, which is not to be confused with Turkish matrak, is a stick fighting martial tradition that is from North Africa, specifically the Maghreb. This is associated with the Imazigh people, more popularly known as the Berbers, but I have been educated by my teacher, Sheikh Chadli, that it is Imazigh. So the Imazigh people are a proud people native to North Africa, very long history. We actually don't know when El Matreg was born as a stick fighting art. We do see representations of it or a similar stick fighting art in North Africa. So specifically, this is in some of the Egyptian manuals. The one that we're translating right now, the compendium that encompasses all arts, that is actually, you can actually see them sparring with sticks or training with sticks. Sticks in Africa, you see this used all over the place in different traditions, different cultures, specifically because it is a lot safer than using live blades. I mean, what's the point in harming your fellow martial artists or your fellow warriors when you're all trying to, prepare each other for battle? So that's important. Now, what I'll be using today is a rattan stick that's about 4 feet long, and we'll walk through the mechanics of properly holding it. Traditionally, you would actually want to use olive wood. One of my other teachers, Sheikh Belmetki Fata, is actually a manufacturer, and he also runs a 15 Bâton Matreg, or 15 Matreg Bâton, which is a manufacturer of sticks used specifically for El Matreg. He is one of HAMA's national partners or international colleagues, so we do recommend supporting by purchasing his sticks. They're absolutely beautiful. You see him post them here every now and again. So there are different versions of El Matreg. What we do know about its origins is that it is believed that it started in this place in Algeria called Oran, or Orania. There is actually a stick fighting league in Algeria called La Ligue Oranaise, where you actually see Matreg competitions. And you have kind of two main categories. There is one that you see with the competitions. The sticks are a lot thinner, a lot lighter. People tend to wear uniforms, and there's a whole grading system, or not grading system, but point system in terms of tournaments. And then, of course, there's the one that's a bit more traditional, which you see often in the street. So a lot of people, if you look up El Matreg on YouTube, you'll see a lot of people wearing street clothes, and they'll be using much thicker sticks, and they'll be doing one of 3 varieties. So the first is Matreg, which is what we'll be learning, the basic stick. There's also Wakaf, which is slightly thicker. The stick is a bit more like the type you use for tahtib, and that is used for training in two-handed weapons. And then you have Zuj, which is 2 sticks, and that actually is the foundation for my reconstruction work for double sword work. We do see that shown in some of the Mamluk manuscripts where they do train, or at least do attribute training for using 2 swords. You actually see in some of the texts that I've read, and I wish that I could remember the names of the essays and I am sorry for that, but they do mention that ambidexterity was trained. It was important to be able to use both hands or with the weapon interchangeably. Obviously, if you're right or left dominant, that will change how good you are with each hand, but to be at least a competent or decent fighter with the stick or with the sword in each hand or a weapon in each hand. The great thing about El Matreg is that it prepares you for fighting somebody who actually is wearing North African style armor. And we'll take a look at the various targets and explain why those targets are valuable through today's class. So it looks like we have about 4 people in. We've been on for a minute or two. So let's get that started. So the style that I have learned is based on the work of Sheikh Ben Mekifata and Sheikh Shadli Karaman, who actually was supposed to come and do a class with us in Philadelphia last year, but we ended up having some challenges in getting him across the border. But the internet knows no border, and this is how I was able to learn. You can also take a look at some of the basics for El Matreg on HAMA's YouTube channel, as well as on Demonst's channel. So, let's get started. So before we begin, just like in every class, warm-up is important. So we're going to stretch a little bit before we get started. Now, El Matreg is not as active as modern Tartib, so there's a lot less jumping, but there is still dynamic movement. This being an African art, it being practiced in the heat of the sun, you definitely are going to, not have heavy, thick armor that will kill you with heat stroke. So, let's begin. And we'll start with the warm-up. So the warm-ups are going to be similar to last week's. We're going to limber up the shoulders, we're going to limber up the back, and we're going to limber up the legs. So, start with the stick here, reach it over your back. And back over again. Reach it over your back. And back over again. Good. Turn your head. Right, to left, right, left, down, up, right, left, right, left. Turn it a little bit. Turn a little bit. Turn a little bit. Good. Your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now we're going to stretch the arms again. Over the back. 2, 3, and the other side. 1, 2, 3. Good. All right. And take the stick back here, and we're going to work the hips. Okay, and back the other way. Good, good. And back the other way again. Good. All right, so now we're going to stretch the legs out. So put your left leg forward, right leg back, making sure that your rear heel is still touching the ground. And then hold the stick like this, and lean forward, push your hips forward. You should feel the stretch in here and in your calf. Make sure that back leg is straight. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Up again, and then with the right leg forward. Same thing, make sure that your rear heel is touching the ground and your back leg is straight. You should feel the stretch in here and in the calf. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. All right. Now take your right foot, put it across your left leg. Stick up and lean to that side. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Up again. Do the same with your left leg. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Good. All right, leg up. 1, going to do 10 of these. 4, 10 each leg. So 4 again. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. All right. Shake that out. All right. So let's begin with a basic stick exercise. So we'll start with etiquette. So when you are in your class and you're not actually handling the stick, you will take the stick and just rest it here. Just rest it here. You don't need to do anything fancy with it or twirl it around or anything like that. But just put it here because this indicates to your teacher that you are paying attention and that you are listening. So rest it on your shoulder and there. So we'll also talk about the bow. Now, before you begin any exercises in terms of going through any of the forms or any of the combinations, you want to start with the bow. So the bow is done in a few different ways. So you have the simple bow, which is you take the stick here and you bow to your partner. You'll also bow to your coach or to the judge, and then you'll begin. Or you can do a bit more of a flamboyant bow, which is a moulinette, and then bow again. Or you can also do an extra moulinette. But for the purposes of this class, to keep it nice and simple, simple bow. Okay? So let's begin with some exercises. So, first step, take the stick. You want to hold it, so there's a few different ways to do it. Some people prefer to hold it down here, some people hold it up here. I personally prefer this method, mostly because this makes sure that I'm practicing getting my arm properly extended. It also helps with balance and control of the stick. You don't really compromise in power holding it in this way. And I mean, it does leave you vulnerable to disarms, but that should be corrected by your technique, okay? So this is my preferred way of holding it, putting it like this. So next we'll talk about the proper grip. So there are 3 types of grip that you can use with Matreg, and I'm going to walk up close to show you what I mean. So you have the standard grip, which is the hammer grip. This is what you see most of the time. When you're holding it, you're not attacking, or you're not trying to get an extra angle, or in general, this is the way to hold it. Pros, it's a very solid way to hold the stick. Cons, it does have a little bit of extra give in case you are defending or clashing, so that you have to be aware of. So next we have the pistol grip. So that's where you have it leaned in like this, and I'll just turn around so you can see it on the other side. So you have the hammer grip, then you have the pistol grip. This is great when you're striking out or you're doing casting blows. It also gives you a little bit more angular momentum and has a nice softer grip. So that is the sort of the pistol grip. So some people prefer to do it this way. This is the defensive grip. So this is not recommended to do all the time. Specifically, you want to do this particular grip when you are actually receiving a block. So the pros of this position is that it gives you a much more solid, there's a lot less give here when you're holding the stick. So when you catch it, you catch it. When you're catching a blow or blocking a blow or parrying, there's a bit more strength there. It also helps with practicing edge alignment, and we can talk about that a little bit later. The cons, your thumb is vulnerable. So if somebody decides they want to be sneaky and do sort of a wrap shot and catch them in the back of the hand, that is something that can happen, so just be aware of that. So those are the 3 grips: the hammer, the pistol, and the thumb. So let's get through with some exercises. So stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Take your offhand, which usually is the left hand, but if you're left-handed, doesn't matter. Put the stick here. So we're going to do sort of a low flowering. So you take the stick here, on your back like this, over your shoulder, down. Now you turn your hand up, back again, down, up, down, up. Now what you want to do here, when you're bringing it down, you turn your hand, flip it, and then bring it back up to touch your shoulder. Good. Now we're going to do that with the other hand. Take your right hand, or your not so dominant hand, put it on your chest, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Good. Okay, 5 more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Now we're going to practice doing what's called a moulinette. A moulinette or a moulinet is basically just turning it in your hand like that. So how you do that is you lean it forward into the pistol grip. Now you let your wrist fall backwards. You loosen the grip a bit, but you make sure to maintain a hold with at least these 2 fingers, these 3 if you can, and then return it to the beginning position. So pistol grip, turn, just like that. You can do it in the reverse, where you take it from the hammer, release it to the 2 fingers, turn it, and bring it back up, just like that. So this is to help loosen your wrist, and you'll see why in a minute, or in a few minutes once we get through. So let's do 10 of these each side, okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Back the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other hand. Ready. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Feel that loosening up your wrists. Alright, so now we're going to do another type of flower in here. So take the stick, and you want to bring it down here. Hold on, let me walk it through here. So it's moulinette, back, turn, and back again. So we'll walk through it slowly. So forward moulinette, back behind you, turn your wrist like this, bring it back again, reverse moulinette up. Forward moulinette, back, turn, reverse moulinette up. Forward, turn, reverse, up. Forward, turn, reverse, up. We're going to do 10 of those, okay? And then we're going to do it with the other hand. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Other side. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Good, good, good. Feeling loose? All right. So, hopefully you guys can play that back again, and then we can do that again. So, now let's talk about the basic strikes. So, there are 2 ways to approach it. In Matreg that is used in competition, you have 12. In Matreg that you have in the street, there are 14. And the extra 2 are actually thrusts. So what I will be teaching you is what I like to term Matreg for the street, or Matreg for fighting, Matreg for battle, and this will include the 12 strikes, and it will also include the 2 thrusts. So, we'll begin. So, the first thing you want to do is get yourself into the proper position. So if you remember, you want to hold the stick in the hammer grip, because that's the standard beginning grip, about a forearm up. If you want to hold it lower, that's entirely up to you, but forearm up is my personal preference. Okay. Next, you want to have your right foot forward, pointing straight at your opponent. Your left leg should be at 45 degrees, pointing that way, with a slight bend in your legs, and leaning forward just a little bit. You want the weight to be a bit front heavy, because this allows you to have a looser back leg. And you'll see that when we add footwork into it. So the starting position, you take your offhand, so the hand that you are not holding a weapon with, and you will put it here. Now there are a couple of reasons why you do that. One of the first reasons is that it keeps your hand out of the way. So it's not out there dangling on the side being a target. So you can do it this way. You also see it in the manuscripts where the stick is held back here. My personal preference is here. Another reason as well is that in some versions of it, you actually have a knife in this hand. So this can be used to hook, it can be used to thrust, it can be used to cut, so that would be another reason there. It also trains for saber and shield. So if you have a shield, you hold it about this height, just under your chin like a boxer. So this is why I would put my hand here. But other people do. Some people let their hand dangle, and some people put their hand in the back. I personally prefer it here. But it also protects the ribs here. It's much better to take a hit in the arm than it is in the side. Trust me, I know. So that's the first position. And to finish it, to complete the first position, you have the high guard. So it's not a hanging guard. So it's not a roof over here, but it's this here. Now what you want to do as well is make sure that your stick is straight over the top of your head. Okay? Right over the top of your head. So this is the starting position. Your elbow should be about the same height as your shoulder. Like that. So now we're going to go through the different types of strikes. So the first strike is aimed at the temple. Now, if a person is wearing a turban or a helmet, in those times the helmets weren't those all-encompassing or all-encasing helmets that you see worn by European knights during the Crusades or during the 14th century. A lot of them were short to here and then had a chain aventail, or they had nothing at all, or they were just wearing a turban. So your first cut is going to be at eye level, because that is just below the turban and just below where the helmet will stop. So this is called a tarsha baraniya, or an outside strike. So that's one. Now the mechanics of the strike, you are actually drawing your hand. You're not whacking. You are drawing it. And part of the reason, there are a couple of reasons to do this. One of the main reasons is you are protecting your hands. Aside from a few opportunities that you might have in a match, you really don't want to put your hand all the way out here, because as you'll see later on, your hand is a prime target. So, over the head, this is a tarsha baraniya. Tarsha meaning strike. Baraniya meaning outside. So it's an outside strike. And it's called an outside strike because your hand is coming from the exterior and going towards the interior. So, tarsha baraniya. Now you want to recover. So what you'll do is you'll take the stick and turn it this way. Now you're doing what's called a dekhlani, which is the inside cut. Boom. So the baraniya, dekhlaniya. That's 1 and 2. Now the third cut is what's called a lahya. A lahya is any cut that goes from low to high. So in this case, you're doing this. So you're aiming to cut along this axis right here. So from the hip up to the chin. Lahya. Now again, the blow, you are striking and drawing, which also is optimized for curved blades. We can get into that later. Well, we'll get into that next week actually. And then you want to bring it to rest here. Well, you want to bring it to rest here for a few reasons. 1, it gives you a place to put the weapon. 2, it's a guard position. And 3, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. You don't want to hit yourself in the face. So you want to bring it up and have it touch your shoulder. So we'll run through that again. 1, 2, 3. Now the next strike is called ras, which means head. And you are striking right here, right for the forehead. Bend. So it's up and bend. So you want to bring it up. You're wheeling it up, so you're not going like this, because that's bad for your shoulder. Instead, you are putting your hand into position and striking straight down. Just like that. So we'll start again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So, what's the next strike? Now you have another barania and declania, but this time you're aiming for the clavicle. Now, why are you aiming for the clavicle, you say? Well, right here is where you'll have gaps in the cuirass. So that will get you anywhere from here to here. So you cut the neck, or cut just the meat around the neck here. And if it's a sword, that's a bad day. If it's a stick, it's just going to hurt a lot. So that would mean you go from here, from the strike to the head, you will recover. So you will recover. You want it to be nice and smooth because you're drawing. Then, bam, hit the clavicle here. And you want to remember that you're drawing it and you're using the muscles in your back. You're not using your shoulder. So you go from here, up, and down. Then you recover. So you want to recover and pull back. This is a way to protect your head because you just committed to a strong blow. So you want to make sure you cover. Now you don't cover by doing this. You cover by pulling it and bringing it back. That's what gives it the nice flow. Then strike the other clavicle. Okay? So we're going to run through all of them up to this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've gone halfway through the 12 original strikes, and we've almost gotten through to the 7th of the 14 strikes. So next, what is your next target? Well, your next target is going to be the forearms and the hand. So if you remember earlier when I mentioned that you want to be careful putting your thumb on here, even though it does give you a good strong block, you also want to avoid doing this too much because your hand is the target. So how do you target the hands? Well, after you've hit the clavicle here, you want to recover. Then we're going to do another lahya, but this lahya is a bit more shallow. So it comes in about here. So the aim is to catch somebody along here. So if they've got their sword up, if they have their shield out, that's how you get it. Okay? So you have the lahya here, and you have the lahya here. So we'll run through them again up to this point. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so what's the next target? Well, the belly. So assuming that your opponent may not be wearing armor, or if their armor has a little opening down here, because some cuirasses are a little short, you want to aim for the gut. So you've already cut here. Now, you're going to recoil because you want to make sure to protect your head because you may not be wearing a helmet. And across the belly, across the belly. You want to engage your waist in this one. Drag it across the gut. 1, 2. So we'll run through up to this point now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So what's your next target? The legs. Now when you are aiming for the legs, you're not aiming below the knee. You're actually aiming between the hip and the knee, right here. You want to get the thigh. If you hit it with a stick, that is a Charlie horse at a bad day, and it hurts, and it's kind of funny when you get your friends on the thigh. If you are fighting in a battle, that is a sword cut to the femoral artery and a bad day for the person who is getting cut. So, you're aiming here. You don't want to aim down here for a couple of reasons. 1, aiming at the shin, that person might be wearing shin protection. And 2, it's a lot faster to move this part of my leg out of the way than it is to move this part of my leg out of the way. The range of motion is not as far. You also don't have to lean in as much to aim at the thigh. You can close in and get the thigh that way. So, cutting for the thigh. 1, 2. Right? That's 11, 12. 1, 2. There you go. So let's run through them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, we got 2 left. So what are the 2? Now we are thrusting. So the thrust is aimed here, just under the rib cage, right in the soft part, and here between the mouth and neck. So you want to get, so after you've cut here, you are thrusting here, and you are thrusting here. So you want to get them here and here. Now, why here and here? Well, if you can get a good thrust in here, especially if the person's either not wearing armor, they're wearing scale, and you have something pointy that can get through, not scale, sorry, chain, and you can have something that can push through the chain and separate the links, or if you really just want to scare the holy bejesus out of them, you can stab them here. If they're not wearing armor, it goes right in, bad day for everybody. Well, mostly them, but not you. And here, this is an important target, because most of the masks in North Africa, especially in the Middle Ages, did not really have face covering. Most of them were open-faced. You do have the exceptions that do have sort of a chain veil, but most of them were open-faced. The desert is hot. So, you want to thrust here, recoil, and thrust again. So, let's walk through that, and then we'll talk about the defenses. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And there you go. You've gone through all 14 of the strikes. Now you've got to defend yourself. So, how do we do that? Well, we got the guards. So, we go. Now, the guards are basically a punch. So you're not trying to tap it, unless you're actually beating the weapon down to open up a target. If you're doing the basics, all you're doing is punching to intercept it. So that's 1, to guard the strike here. 2, to guard the strike here. 3, you want to punch down, so you're stepping back and punching down to prevent it from coming straight up. Now they're coming for your head. Cover. So we'll walk through those first 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you've got the clavicle. So now you've got to guard here and here. So we'll walk through that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what's next? Now you've got to protect your arms. So how do you do that? 1 and 2. Another option is to go 1 and 2. I personally prefer this because it keeps your hand out of the way for low blows. This is always a risk for getting your hand hit. But if you aim here and here, that is a bit of a better cover. So guard it here, guard it here. Now you are down here and down here. So you protected your arms. This same block can apply for strikes to the belly. So you can go back again, 1, 2, or you can go from here and go 1 and 2. But to give you a bit of a differentiation, for the strikes for the hand, I'm going to go here, and for the strikes for the belly, I'm going to go here. And this is ideal to protect against strikes against the belly and even the upper leg, just because, again, if your hand is here and they're striking for your belly, there go your fingers, back here. So, let's run through them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to protect the belly. 9, 10. And now the legs. So how do you protect the legs? Well, this is an occasion where you will beat. So somebody will strike for your leg and you will step out of the way and step out of the way. So we'll go through that full exercise again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. Now how do you protect against the thrusts? Generally, I go with a sweep and a swat, but you also want to move out of the way. So, you can strike this way, you can strike this way. What matters is that you take your body out of the center line and strike the weapon. So even if you miss, you are not, the blade is going here, and you are not where they are thrusting. Or if you're striking it here, it's the same thing. The blade is here, and you are not. And if they're striking for your face, you can apply the same thing, or you can do sort of a high sweep. So you can go here, or you can go here, and then follow up with the sweep. So for this, we're going to go here, and then follow up with the sweep. Okay? Here we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. One more time. Ready? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Good. Well done, everybody. I was going to make you guys do this with the other hand, but I think that might be a bit much. Or maybe we should. Maybe we should. Let me check the time here. Okay, so we have a bit of time. So actually, what I'll do instead of making you do things with the left hand, or with your not so dominant hand, is I'll talk about an exercise we call a bikini exercise. So the bikini exercise is one where you go through the first 4 strikes, and then you randomize the rest of them. So if you have a partner, you will simply just go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they will block 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now they'll follow up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is where you add the next one. And the next one will be 5. And 5 can be any blow, so come back here and they'll do 5. And you will have to block that. Then you return. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have to return the blow again. 6. And you repeat again and again until you get to 10. And you can make a game of it, because the first person to forget the sequence, they lose. It's kind of like a game of horse. So that is an option or a game that you can play when you have the time to do so. So it looks like we've pretty much reached about 45 minutes in the class. So I'd like to open it up for open floor. So if anybody has any questions, they'd like to learn, they have anything they'd like to know, I'm absolutely, definitely in for that. Okay, so let me see if we have questions here. We'll start from the first one. Okay, so the first class is the reverse moulinet in front or more on the side. So the reverse moulinet is more on the side. You can kind of do it on the front, but it's better to do it on the side. It's out here. So you want it in the back, on the side. Boom. Next question. With 7 and 8, how do you want to go? Okay, so for the guards for 7 and 8, let me just get through the numbers here. I'm very bad with counting here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7 and 8. So 7 and 8, if they're aiming for your arms, you can do this. So this is one thing you can definitely do. Or you can also do this. So either or. You can either do this to guard for 7 and 8, or you can do this to guard for 7 and 8. But it also applies for 9 and 10 as well. This applies for 9 and 10. This one, not so much. Okay, so Any reason to use the hammer grip with the 12 defenses instead of the thumb grip? In this case, I'm just going through the guards. You can do the thumb grip. It is optional. The hammer grip is just the standard. So the thumb grip is an option you can use defensively. But because I'm not actually defending against somebody who's swinging at me, I'm not using it. But you can use the thumb grip when you're defending, but you don't have to. It's an option. It's just the ideal. Any reason to use the hammer grip or go back to guarding the thumb? So I'm wondering if you can explain guarding the thumb a little bit. Because generally for guarding the thumb or protecting the hand, that's what the draw is for. You can punch to defend, but you always want to return back to bringing your hand away from the line of fire, so to speak. You want to keep it out of danger. So you can definitely use the thumb grip when you are guarding, but you don't have to. And if you do, make sure that you draw your hand back quickly so that you don't get hit and you're also recoiled and prepared to strike back. Let's see, do we have any other questions? So I'll talk a little bit about the dimensions of the stick. So generally you want something that is about 4 feet long. It's similar in length to a tatib stick, but it is thinner. And therefore it is lighter. So you're looking at something that's a little less than a thumb in width. You want to be able to, whip it around very quickly. You want it to be, light-ish. There are also other types of sticks that you can use. So olive wood is ideal because it is a harder wood. Rattan is better if you are just beginning and you are training. So you want to develop those attributes and get the mechanics down. There are also versions that you see of Matreg with a curved, with an actual curved cane. So you can apply this to a curved cane, and that in itself has a more complicated system that I am not well versed in. That includes hooking and traps and all of these other things. This is just bare bones striking, defending, and making sure to use dynamic footwork. So let me show you some of the footwork that you may want to use when you are doing this. So we'll go to an exercise. So when you are doing the 12 strikes, the 14 strikes I should say, because we're including the thrusts, you want to try and add a little bit of footwork into it. So you want to try and step, and what you're doing in your step is you are, one, not staying in the same place, which allows you to be a bit more dangerous to your opponent, so that their immediate reaction to strike back at you will be at where you were and not where you are. It also adds a little bit of extra force to your blow, because you're throwing the torque of your whole body into that motion. So when you're doing them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So you want to try and add some more dynamic footwork onto that. So let's see, do we have any other questions? Let's see, it looks like we're pretty good for questions here. But definitely, and if you want to practice at home and you don't have access to rattan and you don't have access to olive wood, you have a few options. You can use a broom handle if you're just training mechanics. So if you're just training mechanics and how to do the strikes, a broom handle is fine, it will do the job. If you want to actually train against somebody, I do recommend getting, you can go to the hardware store and get a wooden dowel that's about 4 feet long. Now, it's important to note that at 4 feet long, it should be about this thin. So I'll just put my hand in for comparison. And you want to make sure to round the edges, because again, you are not trying to hurt your opponent. You are just training with each other, you're practicing, so you don't want to do any damage. That cannot be undone. The other thing to remember is don't use softwood. Softwood will break, so do not use pine. If you want to substitute olive wood, you can use ash or you can use oak. Ash and oak or other hardwoods are very good stand-ins. To preserve it, you can just rub it down with a little bit of oil to seal it up, so that it doesn't rot or have funny colors on you or anything like that. So that is definitely an option. It's also important to note that if it may eventually break. I mean, they are sticks, and if you're beating them all the time, then sometimes it happens. But just remember to be careful. Traditionally, El Matreg is trained without gear, and this is mostly because they are just doing the strikes and the exercises and playing the game. In the actual tournaments, some of the sticks are tipped, I've seen, so that somebody doesn't get poked in the eye, and the sticks are very whippy, so they're not the same as the olive wood or the rattan that you might use. And this is why when they're doing competition, they also are able to do that without gear. But if you are practicing it, I do recommend doing it with gear, especially if you're doing the more combative type. Also, the Matreg that you do see in competitions allows for kicks, so you can actually block with kicks, or you can also block with kicks, or you can also catch with a hand and disarm and do other things with that particular style. So El Matreg for competition is a little bit more dynamic, but it is definitely a lot of fun to watch. So the question was for the Moulinet about the sequence after going behind the body. Oh, yes. Okay. Now that makes sense. So if you're going to do that, yes. So forward Moulinet, back, and then, yes. So the reverse Moulinet, when you are doing it after you bring it behind your back, it is coming in front, and you want a full extension, so it will look like this. All right. So over, under, and back up. Okay. All right, so you can also use the punching method while defending with the thumb grip, just not recoiling, leave your thumb out after the strike. Exactly. So Andrew, you are correct. If you are going to use the punching method to defend, which is the standard method, you definitely want to make sure that you withdraw your hand and do not leave your thumb out after the strike. Because the last thing you want to do is, so somebody's coming in for a blow, this is how easy it is to change directions. I'm coming in here, boom, that's your thumb, right? Or that's the thumb. So it looks like I'm striking here, and all I have to do is turn my hand and bring that back, and that catches the thumb. So you definitely want to make sure that when you guard, you're using your flow, you are making sure to draw the hand, and when you are punching, you bring it back right away. You bring it back, and you prepare to strike. We'll also talk about notes on edge alignment. So for edge alignment, the trick is, because this is a round stick, it's not exactly easy to mimic getting proper edge alignment with a sword. So here's a hack that I use. What I will do is I will aim with these knuckles right here. So I'll take it, wrap it around my hand, and you can see the knuckles here. So that represents the front of my sword. The thumb can also be used to help direct that as well. So you wrap it in your hand like that. You can use your hammer grip, use that, use your pistol, but these knuckles right here, so the second knuckles in your fingers, would be sort of where you're aiming when you're trying to mimic the use of a sword. You can even just, if you want to get a tighter grip, you can just adjust your index finger, and then that is the edge of your sword right there. So it's also important to note that this is a tool for training in swordsmanship, or basically any weapon that's about this size, but primarily swords. So this actually forms the foundation of my saber reconstruction for North African saber work. So you'll notice that the base 14 strikes are the same, the thrusts are similar, if not the same, adjusted of course for the fact that it is a curved blade, and there are some changes made to incorporate the shield, which we will see next week. So next week, essentially what we'll cover, which will be the last class for my session, will be North African saber work. So I'll be sharing with you what I have come up with in terms of my research, mixing El Matreg the footwork of modern taqtib, and then what I've been able to pull from the historical texts. So I will be, I'm very excited to be able to share that with you all, and I'm really hoping that you all enjoy that. So let's see if there's anything else that we can cover. Do we have any more questions today? Oh, well, hello there, Simone. Okay, so I was curious about the feet used to block the sticks in competition. Or the 12 strikes use the feet and the legs or a danger can be hit. After some online videos in the past. Okay, perfect. So using the feet in competition, you don't want to do that in reality. When I say reality, I mean out in the street in a real fight, or if somebody has a sword, because you will cut your foot or break your toe. But the sticks are a little bit more whippy. So the way that they will apply the guards is they will literally just step the stick out of the way. Somebody will strike up and they will just put it down. They'll come up this way and they'll put it out. So they will just kick it out of the way. Now, I mean, if you are in a knockdown, drag-out fight and you want to kick somebody, absolutely, you can do that. But I would aim for the person and not the weapon. So you could see the block of the stick and kick the arm. Right? Block with the stick, and kick the leg or kick them in some private areas, whatever you'd like to do. But in competition, parries with the foot or blocks with the foot are done. Any idea on how many kicks are used in competition? That I do not know, because that is not the style of Matreg that I study. I do know that the kicks I have seen are sort of push kicks, so the type of kicks that you'd see if you are putting down a soccer ball. Those were the ones that I was just demonstrating earlier. Some of the kicks I've also seen are roundhouses. I don't know if I've seen any side kicks or spinning kicks. They don't do any of that fancy taekwondo stuff. Everything is very basic. So maybe basic is not the word. It is not super complex in that you're not looking to do any fancy axe kicks or spinning heel hooks or spinning heel kicks or any of that. All you're looking to do is just stop your opponent or take the advantage. So you can apply this in a real fight in terms of low kicks towards the legs to push your opponent off of balance. That is absolutely a thing you can do. You can kick them in the hand or you can kick them in the arm. That's a thing that you can do. I don't advise kicking the weapon, especially if they're carrying a blade. I mean, if it's a stick and you've got shoes on, and whatever, but you definitely want to make sure that you are being safe and not being too liberal with your feet, because you can very easily lose your balance if you're not experienced in kicking. So yes, Andrew, that is correct. Kicks from the waist down. I mean, I have seen people in competitions do kicks above the shoulder, but that is a rarity, and I wouldn't advise it. Unless, of course, you can pull it off. Then you'd be better than me. Let's see. So if you'd want to look at some great videos of El Matreg from Algeria, you can definitely look at Belmeki Fatah's channel. He has a phenomenal catalog of sewing Zuj, Wakaf, and single stick. So those are all there. You can definitely take a look and follow. He also shares a lot of his exercises in the HAMA group. So if you ever see him, just say hello or bonjour, because he speaks French. So definitely you can do that. But he definitely has a wealth of information. You can also reach out to Sheikh Chadli Karaman. If you don't speak French, that's fine. He speaks English, and he does run a School Vudo out in Marseille, I think it is, and he'll definitely be there. So, Renard is asking me a question with dual wielding. So, specifically, it's called Zuj. That's the term that we use. Is one hand for defense to create the opening for the attack? Does the second hand follow with the same attack, or the two hands are different things? It is very dynamic. The answer to all of those is kind of yes, and also sometimes yes. So, there are techniques. If I had my second stick, I'd show you, where you can use the lead stick to open up your defense and strike. You can also use both sticks to do the same thing. You can strike down with both sticks. A lot of exercises focus on the individual hands. And this is also important because you want to be able to move them individually and separately so that you can take advantage of openings. So that is definitely a thing you can do. So the second hand can follow with the same attack, but most of the exercises you will see on, especially YouTube, through the teachers that I've mentioned, most of those show you working the hands individually. You do have some flowering exercises where you're able to sort of work a cycle into it. And this is also to help you get used to the idea of using both hands independently. So, yes. And just remember, the style is called zuj when you're using a stick in each hand. Let's see, do we have any other questions? Let's see. Okay, with the double grip method. Okay, so you're talking about wakaf. Wakaf, I do not study. I'm still learning that, so I wouldn't feel comfortable teaching that to anybody until I have received the necessary clearance from my instructor. So, but if you want to see videos of wakaf, which is the two-handed stick method, I do recommend checking out Bameki's channel. Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, well, let's see. So that essentially is Matreg in a nutshell. So I want to take this opportunity to plug Damon's upcoming classes. So starting on July 11th at noon Central Time, Damon Stith will be doing a similar 4-week program. His 4-week program will focus on the martial traditions of the African diaspora. So he'll be looking at doing capoeira with short blades. He'll be doing jogo do pau brasileiro, or brasileiro, you have to excuse me, my Portuguese is terrible, but it will be Brazilian stick fighting, which is rooted from capoeira. We'll also be doing bâton haïtien, so Haitian stick fighting, and he'll also be finishing off with machete, or esgrima con machete, or machete fencing from Colombia. So he is a phenomenal teacher. If you haven't taken any of his classes, I do recommend checking out his YouTube channel when you can. And if you were with us last year at the gathering, you would have had an opportunity to see just how much fun that his classes can be. So Renard is asking Zuj. So Zuj is spelled Z-O-U-D-J. Zuj. Z-O-U-D-J. And so after Damon finishes teaching his classes, we'll also be doing some classes with council member Henry Monzetto. So Henry will be doing a focus on Southern Africa. So we'll have the promotions out for that in the next couple of weeks. And once we finalize the schedule, so that you'll be able to get another 4 weeks of free historical African martial arts classes from us at HAMA. So that is what we have lined up. So the next set of 4 classes will be classes in diasporic martial traditions, and then we'll move to the south. El Matreg. So El Matreg translates to stick. It just means stick. This thing. Yes. So that would be that about the classes. And yep, so I'll just open the floor for any more questions that you might have, or if you have any classes about next week. So actually for next week, you will need a stick about this big if you do not have a saber. I'll be using my tournament saber for next week's class. If you are looking to carry a shield for the next class and you don't have a buckler at home, you can use a pot lid or a focus pad or anything about this big, about the size of a dinner plate, that you can hold in your hand to represent the shield. Just make sure that you can easily manipulate it and do so safely and that it is not fragile. So we will be covering that. We'll also be doing a Mamluk exercise called threading the needle. So we will be walking through that exercise so that you can see a little bit of what we've been doing in some of our Mamluk reconstruction. So that is what we will be doing next week. So if we have no more questions, I will close off this video. And I just want to say thank you all for participating. Thanks to everyone who has come to the classes regularly and been with me for the last 3 weeks, and who will be with me next week for the Saber class. I look forward to teaching you, and I look forward to learning from you and sharing everything that we have all learned. That being said, I believe it is now 8:30. So thank you all. Have a wonderful night. And for those of you celebrating July 4th, happy Independence Day in the U.S. And to my fellow Canucks, happy belated Canada Day. Take care. Oh, last question. It is in Arabic, so it's Algerian Arabic. All right, that's it. Take care, everyone. And any further questions, I will answer them later on today or tomorrow in the comment section.